Last night there was an interview with one of the local newspapers, Hurriyet, by the new finance and economics minister. That, of course, is President Erdogan's son-in-law. He was recently promoted from energy minister to that new role not so long ago, and he said that there would be dramatic measures taken this morning. They've been unveiling their plans to try and use Turkey's institutions to try and stem this crisis. He'd given another presentation back on Friday, focused very much on the macroeconomic situation without really mentioning this, which is why investors got incredibly concerned about what the government was going to or what was not going to do to try and combat this free fall we've seen with the Turkish lira. In terms of the action that's been taken, you guys have outlined it there a little bit. The context for this is really key because President Erdogan has repeatedly said he is an enemy of increasing interest rates. The benchmark rate currently at 17.75%. Some analysts calling for it to increase as much as 300 or 400 basis points as part of an emergency hike. In terms of the action, though, that President Erdogan is prepared to ask citizens here in Turkey to take, it's very much focused on propping up the lira with their own foreign currency holdings. Take a listen to what he said to an audience of supporters on Saturday on the coastal town of Unye, talking to party members there. He talked about the need for people to take action in their own lives. Take a listen.
If you have dollars under your pillow, take these out. If you have euros, take these out. If you have gold, take this out. I'm talking to those who have them. Immediately give these to the banks and convert to Turkish lira, and by doing this, we fight this war of independence and for the future.
He gave a number of these speeches at rallies for his political supporters. He travelled a couple of hours along the coast of the Black Sea to the town of Trabzon, where he also addressed supporters on Sunday and talked about the difficulty in the relationship between the US and Turkey. He seemingly feels quite betrayed by Donald Trump's decision on Friday to institute fresh tariffs on steel and aluminium exports from Turkey. Take a listen to how he talked about that souring relationship.
I, as your strategic partner, was there in Somalia, Afghanistan. We were together in Bosnia. In Kabul, we guard the airport. How can you, the US, put aside such a strategic partner in favour of terror organisations such as the PYD and the YPG? You are attempting to sacrifice your relationship with 81 million people for a pastor with ties to terror organisations. But we will do as the law dictates. You cannot simply make Turkey bow down by ordering it around.
Of course, you rewind a few days and there was a Turkish delegation in Washington, D.C. trying to resolve some of these outstanding challenges between the two countries when it comes to that bilateral relationship. They didn't seemingly make a huge amount of headway. The Turks have implied that the U.S. set a deadline for the release of the U.S. pastor, the American pastor, Andrew Brunson, who's been held here in detention, first in prison, now in house arrest since that failed 2016 coup. They do not seem to have bowed down, in Erdogan's words, to that demand, and that may be why President Trump instituted that fresh set of tariffs on Friday. That, of course, triggered the latest downfall in the lira, and unless the central bank hikes interest rates in the very near future, according to a lot of the analysts we've been talking about, the concerns about confidence, about sentiment in the Turkish economy will continue, and the challenges for both banks, despite the fresh measures announced this morning, and businesses here when it comes to servicing foreign-denominated debt will no doubt only worsen.
Willem, the playbook here for this kind of situations, you try and turn it to its external factors, and we're seeing a lot of that today. It's the speculators, it's a foreign conspiracy, it's the United States as well. We're going to cut back on dollar transaction, dollar ownership, what have you as well. But how is that playing out with a domestic audience, which up until now has given not so much carte blanche, but a real rubber stamping of Erdogan's ascent to some semi-autocratic position as well? Is there any sign that we think we're going to see dissent on the streets of Istanbul, which from Tahrir Square and other places we've seen over the years can have quite extreme reactions on the ground?
Well, it's worth pointing out, since 2002, this man has had key positions in government here, first as Prime Minister, now as President. He had that landslide election win just a couple of months ago. A lot of questions about the veracity of some of those vote counts, but those have all been papered over by his administration. So there are questions amongst those who criticize him, especially in larger cities like Istanbul, as to whether these kinds of nationalist sentiments that he's expressing are particularly useful. People I've spoken to here so far in Istanbul saying they don't really believe this has anything to do with the United States. This is a domestic problem. This is to do with the need to increase interest rates. And unless that's addressed by the central bank, unless it can act independently despite Mr. Erdogan's opposition to the increasing interest rates, then they don't see that there's going to be any easy resolution to what's been happening here. In terms of social unrest, I think that's a bit speculative at this stage, but certainly a lot of his critics continue to be very upset by this course of action.
Hey everybody, it's Hadley Gamble from our new CNBC Middle East Bureau in Abu Dhabi. Thanks for stopping by. Now to watch more, you can try one of the videos that just popped up on your screen. And don't forget to subscribe.